So good, so good. Well, I hope you're feeling good today because we have a party after service. It's going to be awesome. I do have a word for you today. I'll try to keep it a little shorter so that we can go out and have some fun. But as you know, our theme this year has been the way. And really all about how Jesus leads the way, how the Bible communicates the way to us. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And so if we follow his word, he'll lead us into good things, right? Good things. So today my message is a little bit practical. Is that okay? Okay. It's probably not going to be as much fun as the party afterwards, but that's okay, right? I really believe that it's important that on Sunday mornings we talk about real life stuff that's happening around us, stuff that you hopefully talk about around the dinner table with your family, that you're talking about your friends with, right? So we're going to talk about things today that might be a little bit out of our control, okay? So responsibility. Don't you love that word? Responsibility. Responsibility is the state or fact of being responsible, answerable, or accountable for something within one's own power, okay, control, or management. So, what do we actually have control over? Ourselves. And really, that's really all that we have control over, right? Is ourselves. How many of you have tried to control something else or someone else? Oh, no hands. Of course you haven't. Never mind. I'm raising my hand too. But what we have control over is ourselves. And we have to answer for our own behavior. That's what responsibility is. We're accountable for what we do and what we don't do, right? Okay, so a lot of you know that I've been working through the book of Romans in 2021. I love the book of Romans, but I do not like chapter 13. It's just not one of my favorites, and I've been avoiding it for several weeks. We've talked about other things. But today is the day. So can we just get this one out of the way? Does that sound good? Let's talk about being a responsible citizen. Yay! Yay! So excited. Okay, so chapter 13, verse 1 says, "Be a good citizen. All governments are under God. Insofar as there is peace and order, it is God's order. So live responsibly as a citizen. If you're irresponsible to the state, then you're irresponsible with God, and God will hold you responsible. Duly constituted authorities are only a threat if you're trying to get by with something. Decent citizens should have nothing to fear." So let's talk about those in authority over us. Do we always agree with them? No. But do we still need to honor them? Yes. So when we disagree, it's actually our responsibility to communicate in a healthy and honoring way, right? So, I may not have voted for the current president. Or maybe I did. You don't know, do you? But does that matter? No. So if the current government does something that I disagree with, then I'm responsible for how I respond, right? So it doesn't mean that we don't just stand back and say, "Oh, whatever will be," right? No. There are actually pathways that are in place for us to do something about that. As a responsible citizen, it is up to me to promote the change that I see that needs to happen in a respectful and honoring way. And you know what? Usually the respectful and honoring way is going to be the long road, not the shortcut. Okay? So here's the problem is when we see that a change needs to happen, we get passionate about it and we want to make it happen now. But most of change happens over time. And actually, the best kind of change simmers and takes a long time to cook, because then it's true change. How many of you have done a diet for a week? Did that create change in your life permanently? Probably not. But if you're able to do it for a month, that may start making a difference in your life. How about a year? Wow, you actually have changed your life. See the difference? God is not into shortcuts. Most of the time, he takes the scenic route. Have you noticed that? Yeah. Because he is spending every moment with you, teaching you, and helping you learn along the way. And that's what this is about. This is not just about changing the world around us. This is about changing us. So, not just government. Let's talk about any authority in our life today. Just because someone is wrong or may be wrong, it doesn't make us right if we then respond in the wrong way. Okay? So we are always responsible for our own actions, no matter what the other person has done. So let's talk about a teacher at school. Or how about your boss? My husband. I mean, your husband. How about your parents? We need to learn to take responsibility for our actions, no matter what the other person's actions are. Choose to do the right thing, no matter what the other person does. Isn't that hard? I'm talking about hard stuff today. Is that okay? Okay, let's keep going. We're going to dive in a little bit deeper here. Verse 3. Do you want to be good, or do you want to be on good terms with the government? Be a responsible citizen and you'll get on just fine. The government working to your advantage. But if you're breaking the rules right and left, watch out. The police aren't there just to be admired in their uniforms. God also has an interest in keeping order, and he uses them to do it. That's why you must live responsibly, not just to avoid punishment, but also because it's the right way to live. Now, I want you to know that this is talking about government in general, not necessarily specifically about our government or his government at the time. It's government in general. This is its purpose in our lives, okay? There have been very bad governments, right? In the past. We know history. Okay? So, and I know I'm diving in the deep end here, but you know my heart, so let's keep going. Sound good? Okay. I believe that there are areas in our government and world that are corrupt right now. Okay? I don't have my rose-colored glasses on, except for they're a little tan rosy, you know. But anyway, I don't have my rose-colored glasses on. I know that there are bad things happening in the world. Evil, in fact. That's what I would call it, evil. But just because there are evil people out there doesn't mean that everyone is evil. And that's what we have to be careful of, is that we take off our rose-colored glasses, we put on like sunglasses, and we see everyone is dark in the world. And then what do? Then all of a sudden our mindset, we're on the defensive at all times, right? Now, let's just say this. Not all police officers are bad, but there are some that are and who have done horrific things. Okay? In our current world, there are awful things that are happening around us. And we can't act like they're not happening, because they are. But I still have to remain responsible for my actions, my response to it, right? Because this is what happens. Hurt, there's been a lot of pain and hurt and suffering in the world. Hurt causes fear. Fear breeds hate. You may think that fear is just something you're feeling or is a neutral emotion. Fear starts heading us down the wrong way. Because when we're afraid of something and if we feel like we're out of control and we have nothing we can do about it, then we start hating it. Does that make sense? And then hate, what does hate bring out? Violence. These things are not small, neutral emotions. They take us down the road. Do you want to go down that road? Okay, let's keep going. Romans 13. I knew you'd love this message. Verse 6. That's also why you pay taxes. Oh, we love paying taxes around here, so that an orderly way of life can be maintained. Fulfill your obligations as a citizen. Pay your taxes, pay your bills, respect your leaders. Well, those are all the things I don't want to do. So let's talk about money. Money, money, money. 1 Timothy 6 says that the love of money is the root of all evil. Not money itself, but our love of it. We're not meant to love money. We're meant to love God and others. So many of the horrible things happening in our world is actually because of greed. So let's talk about greed. Money is a trap. Money can be used for good, but the love of money is a trap. So I want you to understand, though, that this is a trap that any of us can fall into. Okay, we know that there's greed in the government, there's greed in the medical industry, there is greed in businesses, there is greed in families, there's just greed everywhere, right? But it always kind of feels like, okay, but it won't touch me. It's not affecting my life. Greed is just what that evil person is doing. But just like bitterness and hate, we can fall into greed as well. So let me show you where it starts. Have you ever bought something for yourself that's a want before fulfilling your current obligations? I have. But you know what that starts us down is the road of selfishness, the road of irresponsible actions, and really believing that we deserve what we want when we want it, right? That's a slippery slope. Anybody else been there? I have. Credit card debt is at an all-time high in our world because we want what we want when we want it, right? And I'm coming to find out finally at the age of 46 that waiting really isn't a bad thing. I don't always do it well, but I know that it's good for me. Waiting until we can afford something shows discipline and responsibility, right? God is calling us up. So let me give you an example in my own life. Last year, Brian and I decided to downsize. We decided to sell our home and downsize. So what happened was we both had full-time jobs. We could afford our home at the time, but then we made a different decision. We decided to have part-time jobs and work at the church because we love it here. Well, guess what? That affected our finances just a little bit. And instead of saying, well, you know, I deserve this. This is my home. We've been here for 7 years. I don't want to move. We decided, wait a minute. we need to make better decisions. And change is not going to kill us. So let's make some room. And it's amazing how downsizing makes room in your life. None of us are victims here. We can make changes that make room in our lives. And you know what Brian and I have found is there's so much more freedom when you have room in your life, right? And we wouldn't do it any differently. We're so blessed. We feel probably blessed than we've ever been before. But that's because we've made room for God to change some things in our worlds. Romans 13:8. Don't run up debts except for the huge debt of love you owe each other. When you love others, you complete what the law has been after all along. The law code is don't sleep with another person's spouse, don't take someone's life, don't take what isn't yours, don't always be wanting what you don't have, and any other don't you can think of. It finally adds up to this. Love other people as well as you do yourself. You can't go wrong when you love others. When you add up everything in the law code, the sum total is love. We have so many don'ts. And you know what? Until you get to that point where you want to do that thing, you think, I would never do that. Do you know what I mean? I have everything I need right now. Well, what happens when you get to the point where you don't have everything you want right now? How do you feel then? Or how about when someone cuts you off in the road, all of a sudden, you should die. And I know not literally, but like it brings that out of us. Who knew that was inside of us, right? All those don'ts. And we think, that I would never do that. But why do you think God said don't do that? Because he knew we would have a tendency to do that at some point. And we can try to justify our actions. But really, no matter what, we're going to be judged by what we do, not the awful thing that happened that caused us to do that, but by what we do. That's what we will be judged by. Romans 13:11 says, okay, and this is the point of it all, okay? You ready for this? But make sure that you don't get so absorbed and exhausted in taking care of all your day-by-day obligations that you lose track of the time and doze off, oblivious to God. The night is about over, dawn is about to break. Be up and awake to what God is doing. God is putting the finishing touches on the salvation work he began when we first believed. We can't afford to waste a minute, must not squander these precious daylight hours in frivolity and indulgence and sleeping around in dissipation and bickering and grabbing everything in sight. Get out of bed and get dressed. Don't loiter and linger, waiting until the very last minute. Dress yourselves in Christ and be up and about. Can we leave those verses up for a minute? I'm going to talk about them, okay? So, have you ever, kind of got caught up in your own life and you just wanted to make everything perfect? And then you kind of like looked up and you're like, oh, I didn't realize all this was happening around me. Anyone else? Yes. So, I'm going to ask you some questions. You don't have to answer out loud, but I think these are good questions for us to self-analyze just every once in a while, okay? Are you self-absorbed? That's what the verse said. It's not me. It's not Jessica. It's Jesus, okay? Are you self-absorbed? Do you exhaust yourself trying to create your perfect life? Do day-to-day obligations steal away from being in the moment and enjoying your life? hey, I'm asking myself these same questions, and it does at times. It's important that we take care of ourselves and we take care of the things that God has given us, but not to the point of being oblivious of God's bigger picture, right? We're losing time, Paul's saying. We're losing time. Are you awake to what God is doing? Sometimes it's just so much easier to look at what is happening in the world and not see what God is doing. Am I right? Are you consumed by what is happening in the world? I can be. It's worrisome. But if we're keeping our life for ourselves, then we're really not living for God and for others, are we? I want you to remember that just like these verses say, God's salvation process is still working. He's still working in our lives. He's working in our everyday lives. Because you know what? In that aha moment that you needed Jesus, that was an awesome revelation. But applying him to your everyday life is an everyday work, right? So we're making progress, okay? So just because some of these answers is yes, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm self-absorbed. Hey, that's okay. We're a work in progress, okay? And we're continuing. We're striving to be more like him. That's what our job is. He's working out all the details. We just want to be more like him. And it's important that we don't take for granted what all the gifts God has given us. Because those gifts have been given us to help make the work a little lighter, to help make it a little bit easier. He's given us the tools to help along the way, right? I mean, Rick and Donna come over and mow my grass. They're done in an hour or two. It takes me 6 hours because they have different tools than I have. They have the right tools, and it's quicker and easier. Do you see the difference? My little riding lawnmower is like, that's as fast as it goes. And it vibrates. It really does the whole way. Okay. I love my lawnmower anyway. It's my praying time. So the 6 hours are used very well. But anyway, so here's a few more questions. It's saying here in these verses that it's important we don't take for granted what God has given us, and we don't squander his gift of grace. So where are we being frivolous? Where do we indulge ourselves? Gosh, I hate these questions. No one's going to want to party with me after this. But let me tell you, this does not mean that God doesn't want us to have nice things. But here's the difference. God is throwing a party for us, but we're so caught up in our lives that we decline his invitation. That is the difference. Because what happens is we're just grabbing at anything and everything trying to be happy. And God's like, but this is really what's going to make you happy. Why won't you come over here? And we're like, because we're really busy over here. I've got a lot to do. I need to take care of these things, and then I'll come to the party. Am I right? So the truth is, we're unhappy because we're focused on ourselves. And God is saying, wake up. Get out of bed. Get dressed. Put your party outfit on. Don't be consumed with your life. Let me consume your life. I mean, right now, there's so much to worry about. There's so much that is heavy. But the only way things are going to change is if we take responsibility for ourselves, get up, and go help somebody else. I'm going to go ahead and ask the band to come back up. So, we've established it's time to wake up, right? How many of you, okay, let's put this into perspective. Don't you, like all through the week, you can't wait for Saturday. And you're like, I'm going to sleep in, and I'm just going to veg out. I'm going to watch movies and binge Netflix. And then you do that, and you're like, I'm going to feel so much better if I do that. And then by the end of the day, you feel more tired than you did when you woke up that morning. You know what I mean? Like it's like, I thought this was supposed to help me. You know, it's okay to have a day like that. The problem is if our life is like that. We're like, if I just work a little bit more on myself, spend a little bit more time on myself, I spend a little bit more money on myself, that's going to make me feel better. It's going to solve all my problems. But it never does it? It's time to take responsibility for ourselves. But really, I don't know about you, but that leaves me with a lot of questions. So if you have a notebook to write down in or a phone to type in, I want you to think about these questions and maybe even throw down some answers, okay? So if I need to take responsibility for myself, then what am I responsible for? Really? What am I responsible for? What should I be taking responsibility for? And what should I not be taking responsibility for? Isn't that the question? What are we taking responsibility for, but we shouldn't? So as we finish up today, I really want everyone to think about, right now, something in your life that feels out of control. Could be your finances. It could be your family. We all have some crazy family out there, right? Could be your job. It could be going back to school in the middle of a pandemic. Does that feel a little bit out of control right now? Yeah. Maybe you're moving from elementary to middle or middle to high school. Maybe you're concerned about doing well. But what are you responsible for? Well, you're responsible for yourself and your own actions, right? Not your teachers. You're not responsible for your teachers. You're not responsible for other students and whether they're wearing masks or not wearing masks. Your responsibility is to do the best that you can. To set aside time for that homework that you're avoiding, right? That's your responsibility. That's not your mama's responsibility. That's your responsibility, right? We have no control over those in authority over us. The teacher, the principal, our parents, our boss. We have no control over that. But we do have control over how we respond to them. And you know what? I want you to know that if there's something wrong, okay? If there's something not going right, if you're not being treated well or something is going wrong, then you can take responsibility for that too. And you know how we do that? Who should we be talking to? Because it's actually empowering to take responsibility versus being a victim. Empowering. I can do something about this. I can't do something about that, but I can do something about this. So who do you need to talk to about that thing that you need to take responsibility for? Maybe it's your health. Maybe you need to go talk to the doctor. Maybe you need to make some time to exercise. I know that's an evil word. It starts with an E, evil exercise. What can you do about your situation? And remember what you are not responsible for. who you are not responsible for. You can't change your teacher, your boss, your parent, your friend, all of the above. But you can communicate your concerns. How about that? And you should communicate, because that's actually part of your responsibility, is communication. Because if you're not communicating about it, most likely you're in denial and you're running from it. Okay? So be responsible. Show love and respect by communicating. That's what communication shows. I love you enough, I respect you enough to say this right now to you in a kind way. God is calling us up in Romans 13. And instead of shrinking back, he's asking us to step up to the plate, to take responsibility for ourselves, and really to wake up to the world around us and to see what he is doing, to speak truth and life, to be light in the darkness. I think it's important that we always remember that we are actually not the light source. We are like the moon on a dark night that reflects the sun's light in the world. So make sure you're in that reflection zone, okay? And really, we need to get past how all of these things affect our life. Take responsibility for those things, but also step up so that we can help others. Okay, so I want to take a minute at the end today to pray over the things that you wrote down, the things that are on your mind, that are weighing on you, the things that are on your heart. Because I believe that we can change those areas, but it's really about us changing ourselves and allowing that change to affect others, okay? Romans 13:10 says, love other people as well as you do yourself. You can't go wrong when you love others. When you add up everything in the law code, the sum total is love. So this week, how can we take responsibility for our own life and then reach out and show love to somebody else? We're not calling somebody out, but you may have a conversation with them and tell them how you feel about something. That's a different thing. Do you see the difference? One is with love. The other one really is all about right and wrong and do's and don'ts. And that's the law. So us taking responsibility and changing our world, those things are connected. We always wonder, well, why isn't there change? Why hasn't this happened yet? Why hasn't this been fixed yet? Well, first of all, we have to take responsibility for ourselves, okay? Before anything else can change. And we won't be able to reach out to others and show real love until we actually allow God's love just to soak into us and tell us, okay, wait a minute here. You can do this. That's what Jesus does. He calls us up. You can do this. Let's do this together. We're going to move forward, not backwards this time. Okay? So everyone stand up. I just want to pray over those things that are on your heart and mind today. God, I thank you that you have reminded us that you are bigger and better than all of these things that weigh us down. So God, we choose to put them in your hands. But God, we're not just saying, you fix it, fix this problem. We're coming to you and saying, God, we have this problem. What do I need to do different? Change me on the inside out. Make me look more like you. Make me react more like you. I want to respond to this and change this area in my life. It feels out of control. It feels overwhelming, but I declare right now that there is nothing too big for you. You are undefeated. You are our champion. And you can be my champion in this area of my life, in this relationship, in my finances, in my job, at my school. You can be undefeated in my life. Thank you, God, that you give us all the tools we need to have a rich, big, full life. And we're deciding today to come to the party, to respond to your invitation, to say yes, and lay down some things that we've been holding on to so that we can attend your party, your celebration of our life. In Jesus' name.